kids around.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Paul, can you hear me? Yes? Richard? Terry? Well, I want to welcome all of you here tonight. And does this sound okay? Is it too loud? Is it all right?
Okay.
Yes? Okay. I want to welcome all of you here on this rainy night, and I want to tell you how much it means that every single one of you has chosen to give your night, to spend your night with the Rehoboth Beach Writers Guild. I know that many of you have attended these events 10, 20, some of you probably 50 times at this point. And every time I see your face, I'm grateful because you support this event. And for those of you who are here for the first time tonight, we're thrilled that you're giving this event a try, and I hope it is the first of many times that you will be spending with us. For those of you not familiar with this format, the way it works is that a month ago, our musician Randy Lee Ashcraft gave me the titles of 5 original songs that he's going to be singing for us tonight. I then posted those song titles on the Writers Guild email that goes to about 300 or 400 people each week. And then people signed up on a first-come, first-served basis, choosing a song that they wanted to use in an original piece of writing. So you're going to hear original poems, stories, funny anecdotes, perhaps a sliver of memoir, anything at all. But the writing has to be under 300 words, which is very short, it's about 2 paragraphs. And the writer has to somehow use Randy's song title in their piece of writing. So that's a challenge. The way it works tonight is that I will announce the song title, you'll hear from the 2 readers, and then Randy will get up and briefly tell us the story behind the writing of his song. So what's the story that prompted him to write Let the Dance Begin? Or what is the story that prompted him to write Finally Made It Home? And I personally want to know the story behind Hot and Sudsy. And once he tells us that brief story, he'll then play the song for us. 3 more things. First, we have 3 or maybe 4 people who are reading for the first time tonight. They've never done this before, so I'm really excited about that. Second, although it has been about 4 years since Randy Lee performed as part of a Writers Guild event, we in the Guild consider him a really, really important part of these nights. Not only because he does things like drive 2 hours just to put this show on for us tonight on his dime, but because Randy Lee is one of the first musicians who 6 or 7 years ago not only inspired us to use songs in our readings, but encouraged us, worked with us, and volunteered, as he is tonight, his time and his talent to making these nights a success. So for those of you who have been enjoying these nights for a long time now, Randy Lee is part of the original impetus behind those nights. So Randy, thank you. The last thing I need to mention, anybody want to guess what it is? The Orange Bucket. The Writers Guild is a non-profit organization, and we do rely on your generosity. And so if at the end of the night, each person could drop a $5 bill in the Orange Bucket, and we also take 10s and 20s. But if you could drop a $5 bill in the Orange Bucket, you will have done a lot to support this organization and a lot to keep these nights going. And if you can't make that donation, I am sincere in telling you that that is okay too, because what matters most to us is that you are here tonight. And so, we're going to begin. The first song is Let the Dance Begin. And it's appropriate that our first reader is Frank Minnie, because he's such a Randy Lee fan that he signed up to read before he knew what any of the song titles were. So Frank Minnie will start us off, followed by first-time reader Ed Appel. Frank Minnie.
Let the Dance Begin is a song that Randy wrote that celebrated young lovers. And after they'd been married a while, they learned a few other dances. And this piece is about those dances. At 45 miles an hour, it was not difficult for me to distinguish Al's unorthodox throw, like this. As he hit behind his car in his driveway, I thought I saw objects on top of the roof. My curiosity got the best of me. I circled the block, and knowing that he was still fighting demon rum, I was prepared for anything. So I snuck up behind him and said, "Al, what are you doing?" And he jumped, turned red. I don't know if it was from the alcohol or embarrassment. And he looked at me and he says, "This is war." I said, "Really? With who?" He said, "With that damn dog next door." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm on my own property. And no matter what time I come home, that dog starts barking at me. And he barks long and loud. And by the time I get in the house, Mary Lou's waiting in the hallway with her pajamas with her hand on her hip. And she wants to know where I've been and who I've been with and why." "Well, you know the dance." I said, "Yeah." Well, to abate his embarrassment, he explained to me that he had tried peace. He said, "I bought the damn thing a hamburger. And another night I bought him a sirloin. He still barked. Then I tried daytime." I said, "How does that work with a dog?" He said, "Well, you're supposed to ignore each other. I did my part, but he didn't do his part, so now it's war." Well, I looked on top of the roof, and I noticed that the stones were ordered from largest to smallest. So I looked at him and I said, "I know you mathematicians are organized, and you have a special way of thinking, and I'm sure that there's a reason why they're ordered that way. Would you help a poor liberal arts student understand?" So he looked at me exasperated, and he said, "This is civilized warfare. You don't use the atomic bomb if conventional weaponry works." I got in my car, and on the way home I heard Randy singing "Let the Dance Begin," and I said, "How appropriate." Thank you.
I want you to know that this last week I kissed the Blarney Stone, so I'm not truly responsible for whatever comes out. This is inspired by Randy song. In a warm breeze on a Bethany porch, cigarette and beer in hand, Jim reminisced about his parents' dance. The 4 small children shivered at the top of chilly steps, listening to voices rising, swearing in the room downstairs, behind a door, shouting curses as the quiet kids were trembling, whiffs of gin and pipe smoke wafting with the hard words upward, in a tiny house now filled with sneers and tears, Frank pacing around Alice, spitting criticisms, Alice in stage whispers calling Frank the harshest names. The night gets late, and finally, warring spouses separate, retreat to 2 rooms with a bath between. The 4 upstairs back softly into beds with dampened pillows. Rapid beating hearts slow, fear fades slowly into sleep. Morning, dinner, evening scenes are TVG, but laced with passing words and phrases, Alice growls at Frank or he at her, in barely hidden moments when they think their brood don't hear. The German lord and master and his shanty Irish wife inside their ranch. Each son and daughter jumps, obeys, does homework, plays outside, cleans, does chores, and hopes the cutting words and stinging shouts will end. And through the years, the children finally grew and moved away. Their parents aged, then Alice failed and passed, and later Frank. But now the eldest son, surrounded by his empty cans and ashtray full of butts, despite the warming ocean breeze, still shivers in his rocking chair, nursing scars from youthful witness to the Frank and Alice fights. The silhouettes of ghostly parents circling, hissing in the night, while he still huddles with his siblings on the stairs in dreams. And summarizing his still haunting tale of parents' marriage without love, he said, "Frank and Alice simply danced their dance."
That is really cool. Thank you. So, the actual reason that I wrote the song is nowhere near as beautiful poetic as that was. I was in Nashville, and I had a publishing deal, and I was writing songs, and I had to write a certain amount of songs per month, and you're always thinking, what do I get? What can I write about? And I came home and ran into a bunch of friends from Salisbury, outside Salisbury, and I ran into a bunch of friends. Here I'd left, when I got out of high school, I took off, joined the Army, and okay, my wife's telling me to turn my mic up. I joined the Army, got out of town as quick as I could, and then went to Nashville and was living down there. And I really always missed home, and I kind of got home and started meeting friends who had, got out of high school, got married, got a couple chicken houses with Purdue. And the wife stayed home, took care of the kids and the chickens, and he had a job. I was kind of jealous that, I was just all over the place, and they had stayed home and made it work. And so I decided to write a song about it. And that's where Let the Dance Begin came from me. When the moon was full and stars were out, Johnny would climb across the roof and down the water spout, head across the field behind Johnson's barn, where Becky was waiting with open arms. They'd hold each other in the pale moonlight, and they stare out at the stars up high, and wish they may, wish they might hold each other the rest of their life. So let the dance begin beneath the stars above, step by step. That's how they fell in love. There's music in the darkness, and there's magic in the wind. Oh, oh. Let the dance begin. Oh, now the moon's still shining on that little town where Becky and Johnny finally settled down. They bought an acre off old man Johnson's farm. They didn't have the heart to tear down that farm, so they've never found a reason to pack up and leave. 'Cause when it comes down to it, they got all they need. Their dreams come true again each night. So strike up the band and hold out tight, and let the dance begin beneath the stars above, step by step. That's how they fell in love. There's music in the darkness, there's magic in the wind. Oh,
So the next song is I Don't Want to Be Alone Tonight, and Kelsey is not here, so our reader is Tom Hoyer.
I'm sure it's no consolation I'm twice the size of Kelsey, but I offer it for what it's worth. I spent a week in my mother's nursing home room in April, reading aloud to her and trolling for memories. I asked her to help me pick a song for tonight's reading. She went for I Don't Want to Be Alone Tonight right away. After a few moments, she began very quietly to sing Duke Ellington's Don't Get Around Much Anymore. They hit in 1943, when Dad was overseas in the Army and she was working in a war job, waiting for him to return. The song was on the 50th anniversary CD that my sister made for them, along with, I realized, a host of other titles capturing longing and loss. Eddie Howard's Miss You, Harry James' I'll Get By, Tommy Dorsey's I'll Never Smile Again. I sang along with the lyrics I remembered. Couldn't bear it without you, don't get around much anymore. The words took me into the usual meditation on the sufferings of the greatest generation. I wondered what it must have been like for Mom, alone in New Jersey, while Dad was overseas, what fears and longings she might have had. Her voice came quietly, gently, as if she was speaking to herself. I never had so much fun as I had during the war years. My girlfriends and I went out together, protected one another from the men we didn't fancy. I remember the dresses we wore, the music, the excitement. She smiled happily and fell silent. This was new information for me, but it connected the parents in a new way. The hard part was the post-war marriage, raising the 6 children, and my father. I thought of my late father and what had seemed to be his puzzling fits of jealousy. I thought dementia, not so puzzling anymore. Good for you, Mom.
That was really good. I want to meet your mom. She has a sister. All right, I wrote this song, actually. I was touring around and got done playing, and it's kind of weird sometimes when you're in a town that you don't know. When I was in a beach town down south, and you have all these people like clapping for you, telling you, oh, you're great, and you're signing autographs, and you're signing CDs. Woo! And then you're all by yourself in hotel rooms, and it's a weird feeling sometimes. Sometimes it's nice because you're like, cool, I need some peace, but sometimes it gets lonely. And so just lonely in a hotel room, and thought, I don't want to be alone tonight. And that's where this song came from. Got some money in my pocket, and I got the keys to my old truck, and I got a half a mind to have me some fun. Now let's hope I've got some luck. I ain't You're talking about forever. Yeah, we'll get to all that in time. Just take a walk out on the beach with me, baby. 'Cause I don't wanna be alone tonight. You don't have to if you don't want to. But I won't argue if you made up your mind. But before you do, honey, I'll beg you. I don't wanna be alone tonight. Come on, tell me what you're thinking. Girl, I can't read your mind. But you never know till we take this chance. Hey, I don't wanna be alone tonight. You don't have to if you don't want to. I won't argue if you made up your mind. But before you do, honey, I'll beg you. I don't wanna be alone tonight. Why don't the three of us get started? You and me and that old yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to. I won't argue if you made up your mind. But before you do, honey, I'll beg you. I don't wanna be alone tonight. Yeah, but before you do, just take a look at that view. I don't wanna be alone tonight.
Okay, so our next song is She's Going to Make Him Fall in Love Tonight, and our readers are Steve Robeson and James Keegan.
Good evening. It was April now, full spring. She reminded herself, and as seasons are apt to change, might how she thought of Robert change as well? Robert was not John. John had clearly been a mistake. She'd lost most of those 4 years, but gained the lesson. Arrogance could not be melted. She'd revealed to Robert all her secrets, save one, and she considered working up the courage to open that last box. For as long as she could remember, she thought herself quite average. There was a near constant whisper telling her she would never amount to anything beyond the pleasant mundane of mediocrity. Robert changed that, she realized, as she began to see herself through his eyes. She saw a woman who was lovable, unique, and precious. He sparked a belief in destiny in her simple yet true value. Unlike John, who exuded a constant masculinity, Robert held only a subtle strength, a strength that needed not overpower but simply knew. Knew what? That the world was not a place with which to do battle? Yes, she felt safe with Robert, not in a protective sense, but in the quiet and subtle security of the flowing and unconditional caring which was the utmost gift he bestowed. Simply, she felt accepted and worthy of that acceptance. Robert was the sweet song on a rainy day, the melody of wind drop, light shining, rainbows forming. He was the ever-repeating dawn, the landscape, the slowly rotating earth. It was a simple epiphany that she was completely and unabashedly grateful for the perfect gift of his unfaltering acceptance. She realized in that moment that she loved him, was indeed in love with him. And at that moment, she decided she would make him love her too.
Evening, everybody. I have to say, when I got the email first, I misread it as he's going to make her fall in love with him tonight. And then I read a later email and it said she. So I changed to take a different perspective. So this is a poem. It's a ballad, actually. It's in ballad meter, and it's entitled Strategy. She is going to make him fall. She's going to bring him down. She has drawn her battle lines, blue back and fine around each of her eyes, bloodlusty lips, cupped magic under each breast, drawn miracle over her ass and thighs, expensive scent over the rest. She knows how vital cover is. Retreat, feint, and advance. Looking to crack his defenses while he gauges his chance. She'll sit where the game's at her back. Plan for the long campaign. Order a Pinot. He orders a beer. She dreams him toward champagne. He'll talk about things that matter. She'll ask and smile at his tale. His car, his day, his idea, his strength, his insight, his big bad sail. Then her moment comes. He'll say, "Now tell me about you." She'll speak true, but soft and laughing. He'll swear all he heard was, "Who?" Thank you.
That was really, really good, but with that voice he could read the menu, right? All right, so actually very, very close to both of those. You all picked up on where I was coming from, I think. And I just wanted to write a kind of, at the time, this was the 90s when I wrote this in Nashville, and it was the line dance craze was going on. And I wanted to write a good line dance song. You don't think? Okay, this is my wife, Lisa. Can I tell a little side story about my wife, Lisa? You don't get a choice. My wife is vice president of an international corporation, and that does fulfillment for companies like USAID. They build hospitals and women's shelters and women's health centers in third world countries. So she goes to places like Jordan and Nigeria, which I wasn't happy about. Bad places. And she's a big tough guy. And she goes there. Well, she started playing some percussion stuff, and actually my drummer noticed that she was always had good rhythm, and he started giving her instruments. teaching her to play the songs. But if she did it wrong, he'd hit her with his drumstick. So she doesn't just get up here and just shake things. Well, I mean, she shakes things, but play. But so she's actually learned how to play certain songs. Well, we did a big show. We opened for Sarah Evans and Josh Turner in consecutive months. And so, big crowds, thousands of people. And I said, you want to, play your parts? And she's like, yeah. And we do the sound check, and we're up there. She's like, oh, this is so cool on this big stage. And, ooh. Well, then add a few thousand people, and I walk out on stage, and she's... and I kind of drift back to her. Honey, you okay? She's just, come on, you sway with me. Come on. So she finally loosened up, but I thought it was really funny that's what scared her. Not Nigeria that scared her. We're all different, aren't we? All right, here we go. So this was the line dance craze was going on, and I wanted to write something that way. And I sort of just made the story up very similar to that, just observing and watching. Because, guys, if she lays her hooks in you, she gets her beat on you, you're pretty much
Mom says it's crazy, Daddy thinks he's lazy, but she sees something in his eyes. So she jumped right on the chance when he asked her to dance to totally blow his mind. The dress that she was almost wearing had on the boy staring, with her arms wrapped around him tight. She's gonna make all in love tonight. Yeah, she's gonna make it all in love tonight. She's gonna make it all in love tonight. Oh yeah, she is absolutely sure he's just right, and she made up her mind. She's gonna make it all in love tonight. Change the room, and the kids are all grown, and the landlord's knocking at their door. See, they both are always working, and her love life is a hurt, and they don't get no time to look anymore. So she decides when she gets home, she calls her mama on the phone and asks her if the kids can spend the night. Now she's gonna make it all in love tonight. Yeah, she's gonna make it all in love tonight. Gonna make it all in love tonight. Oh yeah, she's absolutely sure he's Mr. Right, so she made up her mind. She's gonna make it all in love tonight. Yeah, after all these years, there's one thing that she's learned: love don't just happen. Takes a little work. Yeah, she's gonna make all in love tonight. She's gonna make all in love tonight. Oh yeah, she was absolutely sure he's Mr. Right, so she made up her mind. She's gonna make all in love tonight. She's gonna make all in love tonight. Yeah.
It's time for hot and sudsy.
I'm dying to hear
I want to let y'all know too that Randy has a CD just of the 5 songs he's performing tonight for $5, and then his regular CDs are $10. So they're for sale back there, and you can talk to me or talk to him. But it is now time for Hot and Sudsy. So our 2 readers, we have first-time reader Phil Fretz, and he will be followed by Paul Dyer. So Phil, come on up.
The story I've written about is a true one. It takes place back at the time when I was a Peace Corps volunteer many years ago. Teaching in West Africa, living in what was euphemistically called a staff quarters, really a cement block hut with sporadic electricity, indoor plumbing, but only cold water. Equatorial Africa is really hot part of the year, but actually other times it's quite cool. And since I've never been a person who tolerates being cold, taking a cold shower was never pleasant. So I wanted to add hot water to this housing that I had. To do this, I had to go to the town office, a town called Kenema, which translates in English roughly to Cannibal Town, to get the heater and the permit to do the work. No one there had ever heard of a teacher who wanted hot water. I guess they didn't think much of teachers. After a couple of weeks of haggling with them, filling out forms, and bribing half of the town, I got what I wanted. The teachers at the school provided students from the plumbing and electrical trades to do the installation. I believe it was the only hot water shower in any Peace Corps volunteer's house in the entire country. All the locals, though, where I lived, thought I was nuts. Nobody had hot water. It took the students a week to install the new pipes, the electrical connections, but by God, it worked. The cement block shower wasn't any prettier with this, but it sure felt nice having hot water run over you in the shower. Soon I discovered that every volunteer within 50 miles heard about this hot shower. I was suddenly inundated with guests. They came ostensibly to say hello to me, but I knew what they really came. Did they come to my door seeking romance? Nah, that was not to be. They came for hot water, not for me.
Can you hear me out there?
Oh, yeah.
Folks, I intended to be standing before you tonight telling you the sordid tale of my visit to the Hot and Sudsy Bordello with their laughable promise of good, clean fun. But with my newfound commitment to rooting out the conspiracies, the cabals, the dark pockets of intrigue plaguing our great nation, I must instead relate the gruesome truth of the disappearance of the miniature horses from the formerly frolicsome fields of Nolak Farms. One April morn, fighting back tears, I stepped onto that now barren tundra in Milford and heard a squish. Had the science of horse miniaturization proceeded so rapidly that I now had a tiny critter stuck to my Nike? Not exactly. I headed home to launder my footwear and decided to enlist the aid of the Google machine in my quest for the truth. And there on the NOLAC website, amongst the pictures of the frolicking furry funsters, was a photo so chilling my fingers froze. A toddler named Kelsey being savagely attacked by one of the allegedly docile beasts. Outraged, I flew back to that farmhouse door, but as I went to knock, my hand was stayed by what sounded like soft nickering from within. I glanced down, and to my horror, saw a crudely drilled peephole at knee level, obviously made by a creature with no opposable thumb. And protruding from the jamb, telltale stalks of hay. At that moment, the door began to open, and I heard the thunder of miniature hooves. My friends, I fear I'm destined to be forever awakened by the memory of that hot breath upon my ankles. And I stand here this evening as a testament to my amazing cat-like quickness and gazelle-like leaping ability, which allowed my narrow escape from those gnashing fangs of fury.
You're going to be really disappointed. Every year, I do a cruise and take friends, and I get to perform on this ship, and we cruise the Caribbean, and I sing songs, and it's fun. You know, you got 100 people in a group, wherever you go, you know, you get special treatment. I think a cruise is fun anyway, but to cruise with 100 of your best friends is really fun. Crazy things happen. Anyway, I have a friend named Don Spittle who waxes philosophical quite often as he's approaching 60, and he called me one day, and I was driving, and he said he had this terrible day, and he had a customer that was really upset, and he was just bending over backwards, and he just, and the weather's so cold, and it was because we go in February, we go for Valentine's Day, and he said, you know, I'm just tired of the cold weather, but you know what, I got my health, and I got good friends, and life is good, and I got a warm house to go to, so I shouldn't complain, but I'm just really tired of things being cold and icy. And I said, well, buddy, in a week we'll be on that cruise ship, and it'll be hot and sudsy. And then I said, I gotta go. I gotta write that down. So the song is about the first day of warm enough weather to go to the beach and drink beer. There's nothing wrong with that, yeah. But it ain't a warm shower in Africa, that's all I'm saying. Or a miniature pony breathing on your toes. Oh, now I gotta remember the song. I didn't set my alarm last night for the first time in 2 weeks. Brother, let me tell you, working every day has got me downright beat. I got my flip-flops on, my bathing suit too. I don't need TV to tell me the news. The forecast for today is hot and sudsy. Yeah, the forecast for today is hot and sudsy. Staying inside would be asking just way too much of me. Got the sun on my skin and a beard in my face. Tomorrow I'll be running in a rat race, but the forecast for today is hot and sudsy. Well, I'm way too lazy to wear the light. Ain't wearing a watch, don't ask me if time. When the sun goes down, I'm gonna watch it set. Hey, could you roll me over every half hour? I don't think I can muster the power. The only thing I'm gonna lift is cold and wet. Don't get me wrong, I thank the good Lord for my job. Come tomorrow morning, I'll be in on time and working way too hard. But today I'm just the king of the sand. So pour me a cold one and strike up the band. The forecast for today is hot and sudsy. Yeah, the forecast for today is hot and sudsy. Staying inside would be asking just way too much of me. Got the sun on my skin and a beard in my face. Tomorrow I'll be running in a rat race, but the forecast for today, tomorrow come what may, but the forecast for today is hot and sudsy.
So we've got, is Stephen Gibbons here? I don't think he is. So we've got one more reader who's a first-time reader, Barbara Rue. And it's hard to be a first-time reader and go at the end of the night. And we have one more song, although I'm going to beg Randy to do an extra one for us. But this is the part of the night where I'm supposed to remind you that if you do want to start flagging your waiter down to get your check, so we're not all asking for them at once, that would be great. So the next song is Finally Made It Home, and our first-time reader, Barbara Rue.
I'm really nervous. A couple years ago, I went to the Art League and I modeled. And I was very nervous that day. A friend of mine asked me to just sit for the sketch group. And I said to him, please be kind. Now, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Please be kind. But during the sketch group thing, I was allowed to walk around and see what the artists were doing. And I was really shocked when I looked at this one portrait. And the artist looked at me and said, sometimes it's hard to be kind. I'm sorry. This is a memoir, and I went to visit my father's birthplace. Okay. Okay, how's that? Okay. My dad rarely spoke of his birthplace, but when he did, it was with a wistful look in his eye. He went back to the idyllic Transylvania village where he was born. I knew the name of the village, but nothing else. Armed with 6 old photographs, several boxes of Dolly Saltwater taffy, and 2 of my children, I went in search of this tiny Hungarian community, now located in beautiful, wild Romania. We found the village of Turtebech at 10:30 in the morning. The streets were deserted. The only place that showed any signs of life was the corner bar. As we cautiously made our way through the dilapidated door into the noisy room filled with smoke, tipsy gypsies, and field hands, the barroom fell silent, all eyes upon us. No one spoke English. One almost handsome gentleman threw his large, strong arm around my shoulder and smiled down at me toothlessly. I smiled back, trembling. With my fractured Hungarian, I was able to make him understand we were looking for the Magyar Református Temple. He guided us back through the door, happily pointing to a high steeple piercing the beautiful blue sky. As we hurried to our car, our newly made friend jumped on his pitchfork-adorned moped and sped off up the road. We immediately headed to the locked church in Parsonage, where we were greeted by a large white dog. After a few hours of wandering the village and trying to communicate unsuccessfully with a few villagers we came across, I became completely discouraged. Resting on a stone churchyard wall, leaning against its wrought iron railing, I was so overcome with doubt. Tears of disappointment flowed. Our would-be handsome champion from the bar reappeared. He had been going door to door throughout the village, asking if anyone was expecting visitors from America. But we weren't expected. He called the parsonage on his cell phone, roused the mother of the pastor. Finally, I gathered my wits. I remembered the pictures I was clutching. She immediately recognized the young family in one of the photographs. A pretty young lady, her proud husband, and beautiful baby in front of the very same iron fence and wall on which I had been crying. Miraculously, I was directly across from a cousin's home. A group of curious neighbors now surrounded us as we crossed the lane where a woman in her late 60s opened the gate. The rosy-cheeked smile from the picture greeted us as her 44-year-old baby stood beside her. The joy of finding lost family was overwhelming. Our identical blue eyes filled with happy tears as we hugged for the first time. I was home, and so was Dad.
Wow, that was awesome, man. I'm like tearing up already, and I'm going to sing this song. It makes me cry to sing, so that's not going to be good. In my time of being in the service, I was a Special Forces soldier and jumped out of airplanes and ran through the woods a lot. And then I was a songwriter, so and I toured and sang, so relationships weren't easy. We'll leave it at that. But I finally met a woman who understood me and deals with it really well, and she learned to scuba dive, and scuba dives with me, and she golfs with me, and she's even offered to jump out of an airplane with me, but I don't think I'm going to make it. Now that I'm in my 50s, I probably should quit doing that anyway. I'm a little more brittle than I used to be. So we were driving back from Florida, visiting her mom and dad, and we were supposed to take turns, but I ended up driving the whole way because she was just calmed down. I didn't want to turn the radio on and wake her up, so I just started writing a song in my head, and I thought I'd write a song about us and her. And I kept writing lines. I didn't have what we call a hook, which is basically the title, which is what I gave you, all the hooks to those songs. That kind of pulled it all together. And I had all these different lines. And then after, 16 hours of driving, whatever it was, I pulled into the driveway and I thought, man, finally made it home. I was like, ooh, that's the hook. So I wrote it down, and I wrote all the lines that I had down, and I went to bed. And then I got up and said, I got to write it. It's just in my head, and I wrote the song, and it's called I Finally Made It Home. This old life's been crazy. I've had my ups and downs. I've traveled this whole country and seen about 1 million towns. Tried my hand as a soldier, tried to be a country star. When it comes down to it, it didn't get me very far. So I thought I'd settle down, but I failed every time. Nothing but pain and heartache at the end of every line. Then you came to me, said,
you'll never be alone. That's when I realized that I finally made it home. I finally made it home. Finally found you. Been traveling so long, and I'm way overdue. While running down life's highway, I made a wrong turn or two. Now that you're my home, well, I finally made it home. Lord, I'm no angel. Yes, I got a checkered past, carrying so much sorrow. It seems I always finish last. But then you said you loved me. Sorrow is gone. Just when I thought it's over, well, I finally made it home. Finally made it home. I finally found you. Been traveling so long, and I'm way overdue. While running down life's highway, made a wrong turn or two. Now you're my home. Well, I finally made it home. I finally made it home. Finally made it home. Now that you love me, I finally made it home. Now that I love you, well, I finally made it
I'd just like to say, before I do this last one, this is a special song to me. It goes out to you as writers. But before I do, I'd just like to say you flatter me for having me here to do this. And all you writers, you flatter me for taking up the job of using those words in a story. And give yourselves a round of applause. That was really awesome. This song is a song I wrote not too long ago about what I've been doing all these years. Because I never made it big. Came close several times. And I always found a way to screw it up. And, but I never stopped writing, and I'm not gonna. And so that's what this song's about. It's called The Chapters of My Life. What kind of music do you play? What kind of music do you write? Are you rock? Are you country boy? Who do you sound like? These are the questions they asked me a lot. So I decided to sit down
give it some thought. Well, I write 'em when I'm happy, I write 'em when I'm sad, about life, love, the ocean, about my mama and my dad. I think I finally found the answer that's right. I'm just trying to write my way through the chapters of my life. Don't want to take your money, make you change your mind. I'm just trying to write my way through the chapters of my life. Well, I never made it big, 'cause I've got a stubborn head. So I guess these songs are gonna die with me when I finally take my rest. But at least I never hit my knees for no mortal man. And I hope my friends and family know did the best I can. What kind of music do you play? What kind of music do you write? Well, I ain't right, and I ain't country, man, and there ain't nobody I sound like. So thanks to you for all these years of listening to my plight, as I try to write my way through the chapters of my life. Trying to make a statement, make you change your mind. I'm just trying to write my way through the chapters of my life.
Thank you all so much for coming. Thank Randy Lee and Lisa for driving 2 hours here to do this for us tonight. Randy and Lisa are sitting at the table, so stop by and say hi. Don't forget we have CDs, and don't forget that lovely orange bucket. Thank you so much.
Get your handbag to a Polaroid. What? Get your handbag.